Hello, everybody. Internet, Facebook, YouTube, halfmeasuredroom.com. This is Oliver here to do my weekly vlog. Haven't had time to sit and write about anything. These vlogs are going by pretty easy, and I've had another pretty full weekend. I get my kids um, every weekend, and it's been raining here in Cedar Park, Texas, which I'm in the metroplex of Austin. And it's been raining, and it's really hard to get out and do things with these kids because everything's wet. But today's not too bad, and I try to do these video logs in different places every week to change things up. This is a spot that I've been wanting to come to a lot, but it's a pretty full park. A lot of people come through here, and there's traffic. I don't know if you heard the cars going by. You might see them in the background. But this is a little pavilion that is over here. I really like it. It's a good little spot, and there's this tree in the background. There's another bench back there, so it's just a really nice spot. Yeah, I finally found some stuff to do with my kids yesterday. We went out and did some things. Try to get out of the house, do something, even though it was kind of wet and rainy. They have this ACL Fest going on here. If anybody's ever heard of it, it's a big concert event. It's probably a week long. And where we went, I totally forgot ACL was going on. And where we went, the traffic was really bad. I was like, oh man, I forgot about ACL going on. It's not something that I like to participate in. But that's another story. Like I said before, I want to try to keep outside events away. Oh man. I got logged out for some reason. Hold on. Here we go. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. There's a lot of things that I have problems with that I need help with besides the drinking and the drugging. Once I've overcome the desires and the obsessions to drink and drug, there's a whole nother key element of issues and problems that I have, thoughts and feelings and actions. The actions are a little easier to confront than the feelings and the thoughts. Some of those thoughts and feelings I don't really like discussing with other people, and some of them I just don't see what's wrong with them. I think there's really things wrong with other people. And going on with the the step process, we're at step 4 in this video log series, which is it's a pretty big step. It's something that's used quite a bit. When I ever have problems and issues and angry at somebody, or there's something going on that I'm having some trouble with, and I call my sponsor and talk to him about it. The first thing he asks is, Oliver, have you talked to the big man yet? Which he's talking about my higher power. And then if I tell him yes or no, then he'll say, well, it sounds like you need to do some writing, and which is part of the 4th step. And there's also a 10th step, which continues talking about inventory. But step 4 is probably one of the big ones for people first coming in, because we have to go through our whole lives. And it's a very tedious process for people new in the program. So we have to go through our whole history. And the people I've sponsored, they get to step 4 and they'll either go back out and drink again, or they continue on. I've only gotten to step 5 with somebody. I haven't gone through all 12 steps with somebody before. I haven't sponsored a whole lot of people though either, so that may be the thing. It's really not my job to keep other people sober. It's just my job to be there to be of service and to be of help. Anyway, like I said last week, step 3 is important, but it really means little. I can make a decision all day as far as I want to, but when I actually go forward and start taking some action is when that decision is something that it makes the whole process complete. But let me read a little bit out of the big book. This is one of my favorite parts of the big book, and it goes on for like almost a whole chapter talking about this step. That's how big of a deal it is. But it says, that we had to search out the flaws in our makeup, which caused our failure. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. And that's what the whole four-step process for me is. It's all about, it talks about finding the causes and conditions. It's a fact finding and a fact facing process. The causes and conditions of me getting loaded, putting the drink down, putting the drugs down is just the beginning. There's a whole uh, gambit of reasons why I would use. It wasn't just because I had an allergy. You know, uh, there's things I got to do in sobriety to prevent me from picking up again. That's the whole key to sobriety for me. And there were good things that were going on that would make me want to use, and there are bad things going on. It made me want to use, and sometimes it was just because I was bored. Yeah, but I think the main thing that it talks about in the fourth step at the beginning is these things called resentments, which I wasn't real clear on that. I thought it was just an anger thing, but resentments comes from I believe it's a French word called sentiment, which sentiment means feeling, and to redo something means to do something over and over again. So when I have a resentment, it's because I'm having this same feeling over and over again. I think about it when I'm angry at somebody, or when I think poorly of someone. When I see their face, I think of that event or that action that they've taken, and that goes directly into my mind. It's the same thing if I see somebody wearing a Duck Dynasty shirt, I immediately believe they're Christian, or if I see someone wearing a Vans tennis shoes, I believe they're a skateboarder. That's what this resentment thing is. It puts into my mind these thoughts and these feelings. So that's what it starts with. We write a list, and for me and my sponsor, the key thing was for me to start column by column. It wasn't good for me to write the whole event out, all four columns at a time. Especially in the beginning, it's easy for me to pick up again if I'm not doing this one deal at a time. So that first column for me was just to write a list of names of people that I know, or maybe ideas, or other what do you call it? Like a police agency, or a CPS. Some kind of organization. It's not just people in my lives. There may be other organizations that I have resentments against. So that's important. Make that list first, and then the second column is the causes. Why am I having these resentments? What exactly was it? And for me, it wasn't like a journal where I had to write in detail about it. It was just for me to write something real quick, just a note for me to remember exactly what it was that's causing these resentments in my mind. Because this fourth step is just for me to write down so I can remember. Because when I get to that fifth step, I'm going to be talking about it with my sponsor. That third column is another one. It's like these the effects. How did it affect me? And it could have affected me socially. I could have been withdrawn from this person, or this group of people, or this organization, or this idea. It could have affected me monetarily. It could have affected me personally, like a sexual thing. If it was a lady that was involved, that had a resentment against, it could have ended our intimacy or our closeness. There's a whole number of things, and there's a list of it in the book that you're reading, the 12-step book you're reading, whether it's an NA book or an AA book, or what's that Christian one, the it talks about Jesus. I can't remember it now. There's people walking by. I totally got lost for a second. And then there's that fourth column, which is the key. It's the whole point of this, and I think going over those first three columns really helps bring it back to memory and bring the details to heart. And that third column is where I was at fault. Where I was to blame. Was I selfish? Were there any fears involved? Oh man, I'm sorry. This is just totally drawing a blank, man. These people walking by just got me all messed up. Let's see. First thing apparent is its people, and this world were quite often wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us, and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. And as in war, the victor only seemed to win. If we're to live, we had to be free of anger. So we turn back to the list, for it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. This is our course. We realized the people that wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. We avoid retaliation or argument, referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done. We resolutely looked where we had made our own mistakes, where we'd been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. And the fear one is really important to me, and something that I don't hear talked about in meetings a lot when they go over the 4-step is it's not just that resentment list. Like I said, it's not just because I'm angry at somebody is the reason I would drink. Sometimes I'd be really happy in a good mood. Sometimes I'd just be bored out of my mind. Any number of reasons. So there's this thing called a fear list, which is the second. There's actually 3 lists in the 4-step. And the fear list, I think, is really important. Whenever I wrote fear in that first, it was the second column or the third column. Whenever I mentioned fear, I would circle that, because in that second list is a fear list, and it's really easy. You write down these fears, what they are, and the second column is why we had them. What were we afraid of? And fear's a big one for me, because it's one of those thoughts and feelings that I have, and it's not reality. It's I'm looking at the future, or I'm concerned about the past. And that's stuff that's just really uneventful for me now. Being here in the present. There are things that I've done in the past that I can do my best to correct today, but there are things in my future that I have no conception of. There's no force for me to reckon with as far as dealing with the future. So that's a really difficult one. Then there's that third list, which is another hard one, but I really like it, and I've actually included some of that stuff from that third list into the first one. And this is the personal relations, the sexual relations we have. If we're a man, it's with a woman. If we're a woman, it's a man. Or, if you're homosexual, it's with another man or another woman. And I just really like, I think I tagged it here. It's really got some good columns. It says, we ask God to mold our ideas and help us to live up to them, whatever our ideals turned out to be. Let's see, God alone can judge our sex situations. Oh man, I know it's in here somewhere. Why is this becoming so hard for me? Yes, we viewed our conduct over the years past. We write down these names of these women or these men that we've had these relations with, and we ask ourselves in that second column, where have we been selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? And then the third column, did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? And the fourth column is always, and this is what I like to include in my first, the resentment list, is where we had fault. What should we have done instead of what we had done? And these are all very, very important things for me to write down with the sex inventory. I was married before my first marriage ended because of mostly because of my drinking. It was one of those things where I'd met this lady in the program, and we were sober together at first, and then we started drinking again, picked it up, and then we got back into it, got sober again. A few years later, picked it up again, and so this happened several times, and that when we had the child became the most key thing in her life, and she was able to stop and completely, because our child was the most important thing in her life. Me, on the other hand, I was still using and drinking, and unfortunately, that was the most important thing in my life. My child came second, and my wife came third. But the most important thing for me was to stay loaded, and it's something I've mentioned in other vlogs and other blogs. It's just something that's not real easy to admit. But when it comes to using and being an alcoholic and a drug addict, all these other things just come second. I just didn't see how it was anybody's reason. I didn't see how it was anybody's business if I got loaded or not. But the thing was, I just with my addiction and my alcoholism and the way it affects me is there were times when I would want to be present, that I would be expected to be home or to pay for something, and I just couldn't do it because I had gotten so drunk or so loaded. I just didn't have the cash, or I wasn't able to be present. To be a little more specific, there was a time where my daughter had gotten sick, and I was supposed to come home and take her and my wife to my ex-wife to the doctor and pay for this visit. And it's something that I knew had to be done. I ended up getting off work a little early that day, so I went to my drinking spot to get a few down before I went home. But I ended up drinking way too fast and way too high amounts, and I passed out at my drinking spot. And it's one of those places I like to go, because I didn't know anybody there. When being an alcoholic like I am, you get to a point where you just have to drink alone, because everybody that you drank with before, your friends, your family, start to realize, the problems that you have with your drinking. So I go to this place, and it's a place where my phone just wouldn't get service. So even if someone was trying to call me and I was trying to get loaded on, they couldn't get a hold of me because I was out of bars. So when I woke up from being passed out, I got in my truck, and my work truck. Unfortunately, I would drink and drive. I was on my way home, and that's when I got like 17, 18 messages on my phone, and it was, my ex-wife calling, where the hell are you? We're supposed to go to the doctor. And I get home, and she's already been able to take her. She was able to scrounge up some cash to get it done. And that's just one of the instances that happened in that marriage that caused the breakup, for me getting divorced, for her divorcing me. There's a whole other plethora of instances and images that I just don't have the time to talk about here. But that's just the thing. Now today, my child is the number one key in my life. She's really important to me, and I have to do certain things to be that good father. And thoughts and feelings are, especially having children, and raising them to do the right and wrong, and that brings it all up in my mind. It's something that I think about when I first wake up in the morning, and I read these devotionals. There's a couple different books I read, and then I read that Richard Rohr thing that I posted the link for. One of them is a Hazelden book that I like. It's called the 24 Hours a Day book. For those of y'all that don't like the word God or aren't into religion at all, that may not be a good one for you to read. It talks about the 12 steps, and it's written by alcoholics and stuff, but it talks about God a lot. The word God is brought up a lot. I don't really hear a higher power written in any of these devotionals. The other one I like is called Daily Reflections. It's also a book from AA, and every month it'll go through a step. Since we're in the 10th month of the year, they're talking about step 10, which is kind of where we're at right now, even though we're talking about the inventory process. So step 10 is to continue that inventory process. Anyway, bringing that up, and we're getting close to closing time on the minutes here. I want to go ahead and read the devotional that I kept for this vlog. It really focuses on my mornings. It says that you must always remember that you are weak and that God is strong. God knows all about your weaknesses. He hears every cry for mercy, every sign of weakness, every plea for help, every sorrow over failure, every weakness felt and expressed. We only fail when we trust too much to our own strength. Do not feel bad about your weakness. When you are weak, that is when God is strong to help you. Trust God enough, and your weakness will not matter. God is always strong to save. I pray that I may learn to lean on God's strength. I pray that I may know that my weakness is God's opportunity. And this is the things that I've talked about, I think, probably in the last vlog. There are just certain things that I just can't control. I can't change about myself. And a lot of these are thoughts and feelings. And I take action because of these thoughts and feelings. Yes, there are some actions, a lot of actions that I can't control, but it's the thoughts and feelings behind them that really direct me into making those actions that are bad. So that's what I pray about it in the morning. God to direct my attention to what He would have me be. There are certain judgments that I make against people in meetings, people that drive, people at work. And they probably are bad. Some of these people I just don't know very well. It's just there's certain things that I make judgments against, and that's just bad because, like I was talking to somebody I think this week, as children of a higher power, we are all connected, brothers and sisters. What doesn't matter what color, what race, what part of the world you live from. We are all brothers and sisters under one Creator. So that's how we should treat each other. And that's a really difficult thing to do sometimes, especially when we have different ideals and opinions and take different actions. But that's important for me in devotional in the morning and meditation is to ask for help with these bad thoughts and feelings and decisions that I make, so I do the right things. And we're at 20-minute mark now, but I'll shut up. But going on, when we get to that fifth step is when we talk to somebody about these things we've written, someone that we trust. I'd pick my sponsor. But any of these thoughts, these bad feelings I have, I like to discuss them with my sponsor or with my wife or with family, someone close that I trust will help me make the right decisions. Because making them on my own is just bad. That's me playing my higher power, which I've failed in that in the past. Anyway, to close, something I like to do with this vlog is to put this on my webpage, thehalfmeasuresroom.com. I like to leave a little link with an image underneath to click on to take you somewhere. When I did the radio show back in the day, a little over a year ago, I did this radio show. Some of my best shows is when I would have people on to interview, and they would either tell their stories or they would highlight a book they've written or maybe a website that they've done. But I really like these books, or sometimes they're musicians that are playing music about sobriety. Well, and I don't do the radio show anymore right now. It's something I'd like to do in the future. I'm just not in that place. This vlog is the newest thing that I'm trying to pick up. I don't really have a problem doing this once a week for 20 minutes. But somebody, you can email me at Half Measures Room. It's Oliver@halfmeasuresroom.com. And somebody sent me an email about a book that was written. And it's not a 12-step book, but it is something that's positive, and it's about taking the negative parts in your life and turning them into positives, which is kind of what this 4-step is about for me, is looking at these negative things and turning them into positives. And I haven't read this book, and I sent this person an email back, letting them know that I was interested in letting them know I wasn't doing the radio show anymore, so they couldn't be a guest on my show, but I would still like to know a little more about this book and maybe get, a copy or something of some of the literature that's written in it, so I can kind of review it. But I'm going to put an image of this book I'm talking about, and hopefully a link at the bottom. If not, it's an image and a link to something else. But I just think that's really helpful for you guys that are watching these vlogs and reading my stuff and trying to stay sober. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. We've gone over the time, and I will see you next week. Well, where is my cursor? I can't even see it. And I'll see you next week when we talk about step 5.